Now, you know I'm spoiling you motherfuckers. I'm really spoiling you guys. I always say, anytime I do two free videos, two videos that are free for the general YouTube public in a week, in 7 days or less, that means I'm spoiling. Anytime I do two free videos 2 days in a row, that means I'm really spoiling. Matter of fact, beginning with April, roughly April of last year, which is when I first started doing regular YouTube videos, I want to say this is only like the 9th or 10th time that I've done two videos 2 days in a row. The last time I think was right after Memorial Day weekend, like late May, early June. I want to say was the last time I did two videos 2 days in a row. Now, if you notice on my last video, I added a new feature that was suggested by one of my followers. I'll shout him out by name, Gabriel. He suggested that I do what's known as a YouTube timestamp. So, I took the extra time. It wasn't something that was quick and easy to do. It took a little bit of time, but I did a timestamp. And I might do that. I'm not going to do that for every single video, but I would say probably for every video I do that lasts more than roughly 45 minutes. Yeah, I'd say that lasts roughly 45 minutes or longer. I'm probably going to do a timestamp. And what the timestamp allows you to do is go to specific points in the video that are of interest to you. So let's say I talk about 10 different subjects within a video podcast. With a timestamp, let's say you want to skip the first 3 subjects I talk about in the video and you want to go straight to the 4th subject that I talk about. You can do that if I have a timestamp. Yeah, the first time I did that was for my very last video yesterday. If you go in the comment section, you'll see I have a timestamp of everything I talk about in that video. What else? Okay. Now, what's interesting about yesterday's video, and one of the reasons I'm doing this video today, is because that's one of the few times I've received over 100 comments and reply comments in less than 24 hours, within the first 24 hours after I posted the video. There's only been a few times I've had that type of that number of comments and reply comments within the first 20. Normally, I don't usually accumulate over 100 comments or reply comments until my video has been up for at least roughly 36 to 48 hours. But rarely less than 24 hours. But yeah, I already have about 120 comments and reply comments for yesterday's video. And in addition, for most of my videos, not only do I receive public feedback, but I receive, of course, a lot of private feedback through email or through my Facebook inbox message. So a few things came up. A few questions were posed my way. I'm not going to cover every question I was posed my way, but I want to cover at least 3 or 4 of them. Okay, one question was, Alan, you seem to talk a lot about direct versus indirect. Direct versus indirect. And I've heard valid arguments on both sides. I've heard guys present some valid arguments for being indirect with women, and I've heard guys present valid arguments for being direct with women. So the person asked me, Alan, what would you say is the strongest argument you have for using a direct approach with women? And what do you feel, objectively speaking, is the strongest argument that guys who promote indirect methods have of leaning more towards an indirect method? Okay, I'll use that as my starting point. First of all, some people might be, I always like to assume that I have at least a handful of people listening to my videos that might be ignorant to some of the terminology that I use in my videos. Now, those two terms should be self-explanatory, but for those ignorant to what it means to be direct versus indirect, here would be direct. If you went into a restaurant and you sat down in that restaurant and the waiter or waitress came to you and said, would you like to see the menu? And you say, sure. No, you say, no, that's all right. I know what I want to eat. I know what I want to eat. And she says, okay, go ahead with your order. And you say, I want the stuffed chicken breast with green beans, mashed potatoes, and apple pie for a dessert. And she says, okay. And she walks off and tells the chef to start preparing your order. Were you just direct or indirect? You, of course, were direct. You let the waiter or waitress know pretty much as soon as you sat down in your table or in your booth, you knew exactly what food items you wanted, and you let that woman, that waiter or waitress know what it is you wanted, and they went back and told the chef to prepare your food. Okay? All right. Using that same restaurant example, what would be an example of being indirect? Indirect would be if you went into a restaurant, you sat at that booth or table, and the waiter or waitress came and said, would you like to see a menu? And you said, sure, that would be nice. And while you're looking at the menu, you start asking the waiter or waitress how their day was, what were their thoughts on that last NFL football game in your local area. You start talking about how your day was, and you start engaging in a whole bunch of what I like to call trivial but entertaining small talk. Trivial but entertaining small talk. And then say after 10, 15, 20 minutes of engaging in all that entertaining small talk, you say, well, what do you think is best on the menu? Because I'm kind of undecided. And the waiter or waitress says, well, we have this item, we have that item, we have this item, we have that item. And after he or she gives you all the choices, you say, well, okay, I think I'll go with this order. That would be an example of you indirectly ordering your food. You indirectly ordered your food. Mainly prompted by the fact that you were indecisive about what you wanted. So, taking it back to men dealing with women, here are the two times when people are going to be indirect. There's at least two situations where people are going to be indirect. Is when a man really doesn't know what he wants from a woman. For example, he doesn't know if he wants to engage in long-term sex, short-term sex, monogamous sex, or non-monogamous sex. And he needs time. He feels like he needs time to fill a woman out to come to a better decision on what type of sex he wants. So that's number one scenario when a guy is going to typically lean towards being indirect with a woman. Is when a guy just genuinely doesn't know what type of sexual relationship he wants with a woman. As you know from one of my books, there's basically only 4 types of sexual relationships you can engage in with a woman. Short-term non-monogamous, short-term monogamous, long-term non-monogamous, and long-term monogamous. Those are the 4 general types of sexual relationships you can engage in with a woman. Short-term non-monogamous, short-term monogamous, long-term non-monogamous, or long-term monogamous. Now, how you define short-term versus long-term can range from man to man. I always say, here's my description of short-term versus long-term. I define a short-term relationship as any relationship that's less than a year. Less than a year. In a relationship you engage in with somebody that's less than a year, I categorize that as short-term. So, if you engage in a sexual relationship with a woman that lasts anywhere from just one night, it could be as brief as one night or as long as roughly 11 and a half months, I consider that short term. Short term. Long term, I consider that any relationship that's roughly 15 months or longer. 15 months or longer. If you engage in a sexual relationship with a woman that lasts a minimum of 15 months, I consider that long term. Long term. And obviously, we all know what monogamous versus non-monogamous. Monogamous means you having a sexual relationship where that woman is the only woman you're having sex with. You ain't having sex with any other woman. Non-monogamous, you having sex with at least 2 different women at the same time. So the number one time a guy is going to lean towards using an indirect method is when he's genuinely just indecisive about what type of sexual relationship he wants with a woman. The second scenario when a guy is going to be indirect is going to be when a guy actually does know what he wants. He knows which of those 4 types of sexual relationship he wants, but he's scared of being rejected. He's scared of being rejected. That's the second scenario when a guy is going to be indirect. It's when a guy knows what he wants, but he's scared of being rejected. What do I say in my books? If you read my book, and particularly Mo 1, I say the biggest thing that's going to dictate a man's behavior is how afraid of rejection he is, or how not afraid of rejection he is. And secondly, how afraid of criticism he is, or how not afraid he is of criticism and negative reactions. Those are 2 biggest fears that dictate your behavior. The fear of being rejected and the fear of receiving criticisms, insults, and negative reactions from women. So the second time a man is going to lean towards being indirect is when, say, he knows from the get-go that he wants, say, short-term non-monogamous sex. But he's scared if he straightforwardly says that the woman's going to say, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm more so interested in a long-term monogamous relationship. So what he's willing to do is temporarily or indefinitely pretend like he has an interest in a long-term monogamous sexual relationship when he knows deep down his true interest is that of a short-term non-monogamous sexual relationship. So that's the 2 times when a guy's going to lean towards being indirect. Is number 1 is when he's indecisive. He's indecisive, meaning he doesn't know if he wants a short-term non-monogamous relationship, a short-term monogamous, long-term non-monogamous, or long-term monogamous. He doesn't know which of those 4 he really wants. He knows he wants to have sex with that woman, but as far as within the specific context, he doesn't really know which one of those 4 specific contexts that he wants. That's what 99% chance a man's going to lean towards being indirect. And the second scenario, again, is when a man knows which one of those 4 types of sexual relationships he wants, but he's scared to straightforwardly express it for fear of being quickly and straightforwardly rejected. For fear of being quickly or straightforwardly rejected. The number 1 time a guy is going to lean towards being direct is, number 1, when he knows which of those 4 he wants. He knows, if he doesn't know permanently, at least at this particular moment in time, right now, he knows what type of relationship he wants. Like, that's how I am no less than 90% of the time. No less than 90% of the time, when I meet a woman, I know what type of relationship I want. And it's typically short-term non-monogamous. That's out of the 4 sexual relationships, the number 1 relationship I'm usually interested in, at least when I first meet a woman, is a short-term non-monogamous sexual relationship. That's the number 1 relationship I'm usually interested in. I would say roughly 90% of the time is short-term non-monogamous. I would say second would probably be long-term non-monogamous. Long-term non-monogamous. Third would be short-term monogamous. And 4th for me would be long. My least desired relationship is long-term monogamous. For me to be interested in long-term monogamous relationship with a woman, that woman has to be just like super duper dynamic. And I've said that on a couple videos before. I'm serious. A woman has to be like just leave me. She is just so dynamic and has so much to offer that it leaves me saying to myself like, damn, I can't let this woman go. I can't let, she's like finding a needle in a haystack. I can't let this woman go. That's the only time that right off the bat, I'ma seek a long-term monogamous sexual relationship with a woman is if she just wows me so much. And I think she's just so fascinating and sensational and dynamic that I'm like, damn, I got to snatch this woman up real quick. Otherwise, if that's not the situation, the only other time I'm going to be interested in a long-term monogamous relationship is after I started off being just fuck buddies with a woman, being just fuck buddies. In other words, engaging in short-term non-monogamous sex, and then over a period of weeks and months, I find myself enjoying spending time with that woman both sexually and non-sexually. I enjoy spending time with that woman both sexually and non-sexually to the point where I say, okay, I'm willing to upgrade this sexual relationship from one that's short-term non-monogamous to one that's long-term monogamous. I've done that at least 3 or 4 times in my life. Like, you guys know a couple of stories where I actually wanted to upgrade a relationship, and believe it or not, it was the woman who did. A lot of men tend to assume that all women would want the relationship upgraded. That's not true. And I've mentioned this on a few videos before. That's not true. So any guy who assumes that all women would prefer having a long-term monogamous sexual relationship rather than a short-term non-monogamous sexual relationship, or rather than a long-term non-monogamous, that is not true. And I've shared at least 2 stories. Like, there's this woman, I'm not going to say her real name, but I always refer to her as Sharon. There was a woman I used to deal with in Southern California named Sharon. I've told this story probably like a dozen times. If I had to compare her to a celebrity, she kind of looked like Sally Richardson. I don't know if you know who that is. She's now, I think, a director more so than an actress. But if you Google Sally Richardson, I think her last name is, she's married now. Her last name is Whitfield. Sally Richardson Whitfield. If you want to know how the woman who I always talk about named Sharon looked like, if I had to compare her to a celebrity, she looked like Sally Richardson. She looked like she could be Sally Richardson's sister or cousin. She was a classic example of one woman I dealt with where we started off as just fuck buddies. And later on, I actually wanted to upgrade to more of a long-term monogamous boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. And she was the one who vetoed that idea. She was like, nope, I don't want you to be my boyfriend. And I was hurt. I'll openly admit, as a man, I was hurt. I really wanted her to be my girlfriend. This was a woman who she had dated like baller type. She dated like professional athletes. She had dated a couple of entertainment industry celebrities. She dated like wealthy businessmen. I might have been arguably, and I think she told me this one time, I might have been the most broke motherfucker to ever get between her legs. And I'm not even joking. Because almost every guy other than me that she had dated or had sex with was guys that were making 6 figures. At the time I was messing around with her, I was only making like about 30 grand a year. And all the other guys she was dealing with, man, they were making like 6 figures or higher. And but speaking of money, that was the main reason why she vetoed the upgrade. She's, among other reasons, she said, Alan, she said, you don't make enough money for me to be my boyfriend. She said, you don't make enough money for me. And see, this is one of the reasons why I always say to you guys, like I've heard other dating coaches, other PUAs say, you got to have a lot of money if you want to attract women who are 8s, 9s, and 10s. You got to be really successful and have a lot of money and material possessions if you want to attract women that are 8s, 9s, and 10s. That's not 100% true. That's not 100% true. And I've said this before on previous videos. That's not 100% true. I would say that's half true, half not true. If you're talking about for a long-term relationship or marriage, that's when I would say, for the most part, I agree with you. If you're talking about for a long-term relationship or marriage, I would generally agree with that assertion that you have to be reasonably successful career-wise and financially to maintain the interest of a woman who's an 8, 9, or 10. But for strictly casual sex, I know at least one other dating coach who's agreed with me on this, and that's Mr. Lucario. Shout out to Mr. Lucario. He gave me a shout out recently, so I'm going to return the favor. Mr. Lucario I've heard one of his videos where he talked about that. You don't have to have career success or financial success to attract women for casual sex. Anybody who believes that, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because like the woman who I messed around with in California named Sharon, again, that's not a real name, but I call her that. She was fine in a motherfucker. I would say at minimum, most guys, if I showed you a picture of her, on most guys' scale of 1 to 10, the lowest rating she would get would be an 8.5. And I know a lot of guys who would give her a rating of a 9 or 9.5. She was a fine motherfucker. And I didn't really have no money. I was making about 30 grand a year when I was fucking her. That was back in like the mid to late 90s. And she loved me as a fuck buddy. As a fuck buddy, she loved having sex with me. She loved the way I talked dirty to her. She loved the way I fucked her. But whenever I would start discussing the notion of upgrading to a serious relationship, and I had at least one other woman, I don't want to go into detail with her, but there was at least one other woman who lived in Indianapolis who I had a similar situation to, where we started off as fuck buddies, and then I actually was the one who wanted to upgrade to more of a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, but she wanted to just keep it at a fuck buddy level. Matter of fact, speaking of shout-outs, since I gave a shout-out to Mr. Lucario, give a shout-out to my main man, Ron Wills, man. That's one dating coach and book author, fellow book author, who I have a lot of love and respect for. For those who think I like to beef with anybody else who's a dating coach or a dating advisor or a book author, that's not true. The people who I beef with are actually in the minority. I actually have a lot of respect for a fellow. I mean, when I did my Blog Talk Radio show, I used to help other dating and relationship experts promote their books on my show. So if I was so selfish and so competitive to the point where I want to start beef with every other guy who's a pickup artist or a dating coach, why would I spend 9 years on my Blog Talk Radio show helping other guys and other women promote their books? But anyway, going back to Ron Wills, that's why I love Ron Wills' book. I've mentioned this before. His book called Nice Guys and Players. He has a lot of good information in that book, but one of the things he touched on in his book, Nice Guys and Players, that a lot of books, at least back when I first read it, didn't touch on, is that most guys always talk about the frustrations of the nice guy, the challenges and frustrations of the nice guy. But Ron Wills, in his book, he talks about the challenges and frustrations of both. He doesn't just talk about the challenges and frustrations of the nice guy types, but he also talks about the challenges and frustrations of the womanizers and the player types. And for me, that's why his book resonated with me when I first read it. I read his book, I think it was the latter part of 2001. I loved it so much, I ended up quoting Ron Wills when I turned my 1999 ebook into a 2006 paperback. I ended up quoting Ron in my book. Yeah, one of the challenges I dealt with around the time I was dealing with Sharon was, see, a lot of guys in the manosphere, their frustration is either being ignored, period, by women, or only being treated as boyfriend material or husband material, but never being treated as fuck buddy material. A lot of beta males tend to experience that frustration. Is the frustration of either being ignored completely by women or only being treated like boyfriend and husband material, but never casual fuck buddy material. For me, it was just the opposite. I experienced just the opposite. Most of the women I've dealt with in my life have always treated me like fuck buddy material. They've always treated me like fuck buddy material. I've had problems getting women to treat me more like boyfriend or a husband material. Like I would say probably 80 to 90% of women I've dealt with in my life, they basically treat me with the attitude of, Alan, I would never want you as my boyfriend or a husband. Either it was usually because of two reasons. Either A, they felt like I didn't have a high enough level of career success and or financial success, or B, they felt like I was just way too kinky and promiscuous and that I would end up cheating on them. So a lot of women would write me off as boyfriend material, husband material, but when it came to fucking just to be fucking, that's where I pretty much had my way with women for most of my life, and particularly in my 20s and 30s. I never really had problems scoring one-night stands, weekend flings, and just general fuck buddy sex. But anyway, this is going to allow me to segue into my second thing I want to talk about. Speaking of casual fuck buddy sex versus boyfriend-girlfriend type sex. Hold that thought 1 second. I'm getting thirsty. I need a drink. Okay, now one question I got in my comment section, and this is, I don't even want to bring them up, but I'm going to have to bring them up. I'm going to have to bring up the other dating coach, who I'm not going to say his name, but he came out with a book within the last 2 to 3 weeks. I addressed a lot of his criticisms of the direct approach in my last video. But one of his followers, and I read his ebook, so I saw where this dating coach said this. First of all, I'll say what the dating coach said, and then I'll get to the question what the guy asked me in the comment section. In the ebook of this other dating coach, he was criticizing, again, the direct approach. One of his he basically had 3 criticisms, and I'm not going to get into all of them because I addressed those in the last video. But one of his 3 criticisms of the direct approach is that he said the only way you're going to have success with women sexually using a direct approach is if a woman already knows from the time she meets you that she has an above average degree of interest in you, a very high interest in you. But if she only has, say, an average or less than average degree of interest in you, he argued that a direct approach is going to hurt you. And he went on to say that if you meet a woman that, say, only starts off having an average or maybe slightly below average interest in you, you need to go on at least 3 dates, minimum 3 dates with that woman so you can raise her interest in you, increase her interest in you by demonstrating how intelligent you are, how funny you are, how emotionally empathetic you are, and just generally how great you are as a guy. I think you know what's coming. Insert Chewy's face right here. See, I ain't gonna even criticize the other dating coach. I'm gonna just say, bless his blue pill mind heart. That's what I'm gonna say. Instead of criticizing him, I'm gonna say, bless his blue pill oriented mindset heart. Because I'm just gonna keep it real, man. Most of y'all know the difference between being blue pill and red pill. In a nutshell, that's blue pill oriented advice. That is blue pill oriented advice. That is not red pill advice. I can tell you straight up. That is not in any way, shape, or form red pill oriented advice. That is blue pill advice. If anybody has read my original Mo 1 book, which would be, my first original would be my 1999 ebook version. That's the first version I made made available to the general public. Matter of fact, speaking of round wheels, do you know when I first came out with my first ebook version in 1999? Do you know I was just giving it away? Yeah. So over the years, I've heard at least a handful of critics say, oh, Alan, he just became a dating coach because he tried to make money off of guys. He tried to make money off of guys. If you only knew the truth, you would laugh at that comment. My brother and my close friends know. When I first came out with my 1999 ebook version, I actually used to give my ebook away. Like my first pamphlet I wrote in 1995, that was the very first pamphlet I wrote. I gave it away. Then I did another updated pamphlet in 1996, gave it away. Then I did another one in the latter part of 1997, which was that was the first version that I copyrighted. I gave that away. And then my first ebook version that I had on the internet, I used to just give it away. I literally used to just give it away. And the two people who provoked me to start charging for it first was my brother, my older brother named Steven. And the second person was Ron Wills. Me and Ron Wills, I don't want to get a long story. I've told this story before, how me and Ron Wills met. I've probably known him longer than any other black person in the manosphere, is Ron Wills. Yeah, we first connected through email back in like late summer. I want to say it was around late summer, early fall. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was around fall of 2001. It was fall of 2001 when I first connected with Ron Wills, because I knew I wanted to ultimately turn my ebook into a paperback, and I wrote him for advice on basically, because at that time it was very expensive. Like anybody could do it nowadays. It's pretty easy and pretty inexpensive nowadays. But back around like 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, it was actually expensive to turn your ebook into a self-published paperback. And so I wrote Ron Wills for some advice, and he gave me a lot of good advice. But I ended up mentioning to him that I was just giving my ebook away. And I don't know his exact response, but it was a lot of lines of like, why are you doing that? Why are you giving your ebook away? Shoot, even before you turn your ebook into a paperback, even while it's still just an ebook, he was like, you still should be charging for it. You still should be charging for it. I wouldn't give it away simply because it's not a paperback and it's just an ebook. And yeah, the first person who had said that to me was my brother. My brother was like, why are you just giving it away? Yeah, but I did. I used to, in 1999, 2000, and at least the first half of 2001, I used to just give away my Mo 1 ebook. I literally used to just give it away. But I lost my train of thought. I hate when it happens. Don't you hate when that happens? When you were talking about something and then you go on a tangent, and then when you try to go back to what you were originally talking about, you like lose your train of thought. I was talking about in my book, something to do with my original ebook. Well, anyway, we were on the subject. I wanted to tackle casual sex. But I was talking about this other dating coach's book. And he said that you should go, if you meet a woman that only has, say, roughly an average or slightly below average interest in you, that you should go out on at least 3 dates with her so that I know what I was going to say. Here's what I know what I was going to say. Going back to my 1999 ebook version of Mo 1, if you read what's known as my introduction, most books have an introduction before they get to their regular chapters. As early as my introduction, I say in my book, I can't remember the exact words, so I'm going to paraphrase a bit, but I say, to avoid unsubstantiated hype. To avoid unsubstantiated hype, I say, I'm going to make something clear to you men reading this ebook right now, up front. Now, you know about my 5 archetypes of women: reciprocator, rejector, wholesome pretender, erotic hypocrite, and manipulative time waster. When I say in the introduction, my first ebook, I say, you cannot turn a rejector into a reciprocator. Let me repeat that. You cannot turn a rejector into a reciprocator. Now, since this other dating coach wants to give blue pill advice, and you can make money giving blue pill advice, I won't lie. When it comes to making money, that's why you got a lot of, as they call them, snake oil salesmen in the PUA community. You can make money giving people blue pill advice or purple pill advice. You really can. So in that respect, that's why I'm not surprised when I read people giving blue pill advice and selling guys a dream and a fantasy, because you can make money doing that. See, if there's one downside to giving people really blunt, hardcore, red pill type advice, you ain't gonna be able to make as much money as you probably could giving blue pill. My own brother even said that to me. Like I've told you guys before, that's one of my brother's criticisms of me. He doesn't like the fact that I'm so hardcore red pill. Because his basic argument is, man, his attitude is you ain't gonna become mainstream being hardcore red pill, and you ain't gonna become super duper wealthy being hardcore red pill. But see, it's just not in my character or my integrity, man, to feed guys a bunch of bullshit. But I'm gonna try not to get too long-winded because I don't want this video to be too long. So I'm gonna put it in just really simple terms, man. If your objective is casual sex, fuck buddy sex, non-relationship sex, you cannot increase a woman's interest. You can't. I hate to shatter a lot of you guys' delusional beliefs and fantasies, but I'm just going to keep it extra real. When it comes to casual sex, not relationship sex, but strictly casual sex, fuck buddy sex, non-relationship sex, you cannot increase a woman's interest in you over a period of, say, 3, 4, or 5 dates. That is never, ever going to happen. I put money on it. I'll stake my life on that statement. And you ain't gonna never accomplish that. You'll never accomplish that. Any dating coach who makes you believe you can, or any pickup artist makes you believe you can, they just try to take your money. Because that's bullshit. And there have been studies conducted that back me up on this. There have been studies conducted that have backed me up on this. When it comes to a woman's strictly sexual desires and interests in you, women either have interest in you or they don't. Let me repeat that. When it comes to women's interest in spending time with you strictly for sex, women either have interest in you or they don't. They either have interest in you or they don't. And that's one of the reasons why I'm all about the direct approach, because I know that. Women either have interest in you or they don't. Now, that's not to say that every woman who does have an interest in spending time with you strictly for sex is going to be straightforward about that. And that's why you have wholesome pretenders and erotic hypocrites. That's why you have wholesome pretenders and erotic hypocrites. Because not all women who are truly interested in spending time with you just for the purpose of sex are going to straightforwardly tell you that. Similarly, not every woman who lacks an interest in spending time with you strictly for sex is going to straightforwardly tell you that. That's why you have manipulative time wasters. That's why you have manipulative time wasters. And I know a lot of people just want, light bulb on the head. Okay, I get it now. But when it comes, if your objective is casual sex, I don't care how many dates you go on with a woman. You go on 2 dates, 3 dates, 5 dates, 10 dates. You ain't going to change that woman's mind. I guarantee you won't. Again, I'll put money on it. I'll stake my life on it. You won't. Dates are totally unnecessary if your objective is short-term, non-monogamous casual sex. Dates are totally unnecessary when your objective... Matter of fact, here's what's interesting. I'm going to tell you something interesting. And my Patreon subscribers already know what I'm about to say. Just about roughly a month and a half, 2 months, no more than 3 months ago, a female friend of mine invited me to join this Facebook group. You know, there's a bunch of groups on Facebook if you're a member of Facebook. And a lot of groups, they have a lot of groups related to like dating and relationships discussions. And so I got a friend, she lives in Ohio, and she invited me to join this one group. It's an African-American group. It's about 2/3, 3/4 women, and about 1/4, 1/3 men. And it's pretty much all black people. It's no non-black people in the group. And so what they do, different people in the group will post different things, either questions related to dating relationships, or they'll post a link to an interesting article or interesting video, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, somebody in the group asked this question about, it was a male, one of the male members of this group asked a question about going out on dates. Like, how many dates should you go on with a woman? Where should you take her on the dates? And a couple other questions related to the dates. And different people were giving him responses. And anyway, I came into the discussion and I basically said what I just told you guys a few minutes ago. I said, it depends. I said, whether or not you go on a date depends on what your objective is. I said, if your objective is basically short-term, non-monogamous casual sex, you're wasting both your time and your money going out on a fucking date. That's a waste of time. That's a fucking waste of time. I said, the only reason to go on dates is for two reasons. For you as a man to identify if a woman's non-sexual companionship is worth spending time with, if her non-sexual companionship is worth spending time with, and for her on her end to basically identify the same thing, to identify if your non-sexual companionship is worth spending time with, and in addition on the woman's side, to see what you might be possibly willing to offer her in exchange for her sexual companionship. You know what was interesting about when I posted that response in that Facebook group? Guess what was it? Well, it wasn't surprising to me, but some people probably find it surprising. Guess who co-signed with me more? Guess who co-signed with me more when I posted that you shouldn't go on dates with women for casual sex, that you should only go on dates with women if you're looking for your next long-term girlfriend or your future wife? Guess who clicked like more? Who would you think would click like more? The men in the group or the women in the group? The women in the group. I had a bunch of women who both publicly and privately co-signed with me. Like I had about 3 or 4 women who wrote me privately. They said, that is so true. What you said, Alan, I'm glad you're in the group. That is so true. So that just shows you that women know what's up, man. Women know what's up. Women know what's up. They know that dates are a waste of time if what you're looking for is casual sex. You don't need to go on no date with a woman for casual sex. But yeah, I had probably about 7 or 8 women click like on my comment in that group. I think I only had one man that clicked like. I only had one man that clicked like on my comment. I had about 7 or 8 women that clicked like on my comment when I said that going out on dates with women is a waste of time if your specific objective is to engage in short-term, non-monogamous casual sex. Marinate on that. See, here's what you got to understand. And my longtime listeners and followers know about the difference between these two. Here's what you need to understand. There's a difference between genuine, keyword genuine. There's a difference between genuine sexual desire and interest and manipulative sexual desire and interest. Let me repeat that. There's a difference between genuine sexual desire and interest versus manipulative. There's basically 3 levels of interest a woman can have in having sex with you. 3 levels of interest. Genuine interest, manipulative interest, and of course, no interest at all. Genuine interest, manipulative interest, and no interest at all. What's the difference between the 3? Here's when you know that a woman is genuinely interested. Matter of fact, since I'm giving shout outs today, I gave a shout out to Mr. Lucario, Ron Wills. I'm going to give one more shout out. Rollo Tomasi, the author of The Rational Male. He's real popular in the manosphere. He's going to be speaking at the 21 convention. That's where I'm going to be traveling next week, next Thursday, matter of fact. I'm going to be going to Orlando, Florida for my second gig at the 21 convention. But Rollo Tomasi, I was just watching a video a few days ago of Rollo Tomasi, and he said this phrase that I've heard him say at least once or twice before, and it's similar to my own phrase. Like I've always said for years, I say, just like I said about 10, 15 minutes ago, I said, you cannot raise a woman's strictly sexual interest in you. You can't. You cannot raise a woman's strictly sexual interest in you simply by going on 3, 4, or 5 dates with a woman. And one of the things Rollo, he has this phrase, he says, you cannot negotiate genuine sexual desire. That's what he said on the video. He said, you cannot negotiate genuine. Keyword, again, is genuine. You cannot negotiate genuine sexual desire. And see, me and Rollo on the same page on that. Because again, I've said that myself in different ways over the last probably 10, 15, 20 years, man. There's a difference between genuine sexual interest and manipulative sexual interest. Here's how I define genuine sexual interest. Is when a woman wants to give you some pussy without you offering her anything other than your dick. If you're able to get a woman in bed just by offering a woman a good time in bed, and that's enough motivation for her to want to open her legs for you, that's genuine sexual interest. That's genuine sexual interest. Is when the only motivation a woman needs to have sex with you is just the fact that she confidently assumes that she's going to enjoy herself with you sexually and she's going to be satisfied by you sexually. That's genuine sexual interest. In other words, you ain't got to offer her no money. You ain't got to offer her no materialistic gifts. You ain't got to offer to spend a significant amount of time with her non-sexually. You ain't got to offer to put no ring on her finger. You ain't got to offer to help her raise any children or anything. You ain't got to offer to help her get a new or better job. Nothing. The only thing you offering that woman in exchange for a pussy is your dick. That's genuine sexual interest. That's genuine sexual interest. And when it comes to genuine sexual interest, I'm telling you fellas, y'all could choose to not believe me if you want to, but I'm breaking it down to you red pill fashion. When it comes to genuine sexual interest, you can't change that over a period of 3, 4, or 5 dates. When it comes to genuine sexual interest, women either are interested in you or they're not. They either are interested in you or they're not. Period. End of story. They either are interested in you or they're not. Now, again, not all women who have a genuine sexual interest in you are going to straightforwardly tell you that. And that's why you have wholesome pretenders and erotic hypocrites. And not all women who are not genuinely sexually interested in you are going to straightforwardly tell you that either. And that's why you have manipulative time wasters. The next level of interest is what I refer to as manipulative sexual interest. Manipulative sexual interest. Manipulative sexual interest is when a woman is not motivated to have sex with you just because you offering to fuck her right. So in terms of just a combination of your looks and sex appeal, or lack thereof, she's not really interested in having sex with you. But if you were to say to that woman, well, let's say you approached a woman named Lisa and you said, Lisa, I want to fuck you. And she said, no, Frank, you're not really my type. I'm sorry. And you said, oh, come on, Lisa. I swear I'll show you a good time in bed. She says, no, Frank, I'm sorry. I'm just not interested. Now, what has that woman just told you? That woman has just told you that in terms of genuine sexual interest, she really has no interest in you. Unless she's being a wholesome pretender or erotic hypocrite. And I don't want to get into that. But let's say she's being honest and sincere about that. Now, let's say you say, well, Lisa, I'll buy you some jewelry and I'll pay your rent for the next 6 months if you let me get that pussy. And she says, okay. Yeah, all right. If you buy me a diamond necklace and you pay my rent for the next 6 months, yeah, okay, I'll let you fuck me. See, that's representative of manipulative interest. That's manipulative interest. The most obvious example of that would be a woman who's a street prostitute, a professional call girl, or an erotic escort. Any woman that is not willing to fuck you for free, but is willing to fuck you in exchange for money or material possessions or anything else of tangible value, that's, number one, that's a whore. Number two, that's manipulative sexual interest. If you have to offer a woman something of tangible or intangible value in order to motivate her to give you some pussy, that means you're provoking a woman's manipulative sexual interest. She's only opening her legs for you because you're offering her something. Tangible value would be something like money or material possessions. Intangible value would be just you offering to spend a lot of time with her non-sexually. Now, when it comes to manipulative interests, that's where this other dating coach, the comment he made in his ebook, would be valid. Because he says in his ebook that you can potentially increase a woman's interest in you over a period of 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Yeah, if you're talking about manipulative interest, yes, that's very possible. That's very possible to do if we're talking manipulative interest. That's the whole purpose of a date. That's why a lot of women like to go on dates, is to see what you're going to offer them. That's what a lot of you guys don't realize, particularly you blue pill thinkers. That's one of the main reasons why a lot of women go on dates with you, is to see two things, is to see if you value and appreciate their non-sexual attention and companionship, and secondly, to see what you're willing to negotiate and offer them for their sexual companionship. That's the main reason why women go on dates with men. And then the final level of interest simply would be no interest at all. No interest at all would be like, even if you offer a woman something of tangible or intangible value, she's still like, nah, I ain't interested. Like, even if you told a woman, I'll pay your mortgage for the next year, I'll buy you a Jaguar, and she's still like, nah, I still don't want to give you no pussy. That means that woman just genuinely has no interest in you. If you offering her stuff and she's still rejecting you and she's willing to leave your offer on the table, your offer of financial rewards and incentives and materialistic rewards and incentives, she's still willing to leave that on the table because she don't want to answer, that means that woman's just flat out genuinely just not interested in you. That's what a total beta male is. That's typically, if you know about my 4 archetypes, total alpha male with beta traits, beta male with alpha traits, and total beta male. Total beta males are guys who tend to experience a lot of just lack of interest, period. Like, even if they offer women shit, women still don't want to fuck them. So those are 3 levels of interest. Genuine interest, manipulative interest, and no interest at all. Again, genuine interest is when the only thing you got to offer a woman for her pussy is your dick. That's the only thing you got to offer her. You simply exchanging your sexual companionship, access to your sexual companionship, for access to her sexual companionship. It's an even exchange. You offering access to your sexual companionship for access to her. That's genuine sexual interest. If you have to offer a woman access to your non-sexual companionship in addition to your sexual companionship, offer a woman money, materialistic resources, and any other incentives and rewards, that's manipulative sexual interest. Bottom line, dates do not help you with genuine interest. Dates do not help you with genuine, strictly sexual interest. They do not. Trust me on that. And anybody who's telling you that is giving you blue pill oriented advice and information. That's not red pill. That's blue pill. Get it, got it, good. I'm out.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive. Your intonations are the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice. How you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.